Learning challenges of any kind are so stressful for parents. We want to do our best for our children, and we want them to learn everything that they'll need for their lives. So there's often a lot of reactivity and a lot of instant need to tutor and take to more tutoring, and sometimes remediation is a great choice, but I'd like you to consider a broader lens on why a child may not be learning in the optimal way. And the biggest reason to consider is stress and density. So children need to be fully at ease to learn. And the absence of danger is not enough to make a child fully at ease. So we can talk about different aspects of a child's life, what makes a child at ease, and we know that when a child is not at ease and there's any kind of chronic tension, which may not be obvious, initially when you look at the child, because the child is adaptable and they'll adapt to whatever stress, they have going on in their lives. So we may not identify that child is stressed. But if the child is stressed, it inhibits the way the left and right brain talk to each other, and that is essential for learning. So if you go back, what are some of the things that stress children? Well, one thing that I see prevalently happening is density. Children are just doing too many things. And parents are doing too many things, and the result is there's not enough integration time. And that's essential for creating the conditions where the information that's been delivered, it has to filter through the child, and that filtering happens through open spaces, open-ended play, creative play, imaginative play, and just time to kind of bum around, which is less and less common, particularly if you have two working parents, aftercare, like the time to get all the stuff done you have to get done and then put the child to bed, it's very short. So that might be a reality of modern living, but we need to figure out what can we do to support the children so that there are opportunities throughout the week where there's less density, and one choice may be saying no to things that are otherwise good things to do, but for the purpose of creating space. And the other opportunity is to help support the child in how they are processing stress. Homeopathy is a wonderful tool because it optimizes how we respond to stress. And when we think about what stresses a child, density is only one factor. Exposure to the adult world, particularly children less than 9, that's a big deal. The news can stress child. Older siblings and their happenings and their dealings, parents, financial stress, work stress, all of those things are really outside the realm of what a young child ought to be handling, and they are often exposed to. Lots of media isn't so appropriate for young children. I would argue that a lot of use of technology is an inhibiting factor in letting the child have that open space and integration so that they can learn optimally. So all these things, and when we broaden it even further, there can be the effect of trauma that stresses a child. So that can be things that are actually happening now. So traumatic events in the extended family could be, a really sick grandparent could stress a child because it's also stressing the parent. The one thing that I've noticed people don't consider very often as it relates to learning is unprocessed trauma from the parent. So I have seen this in cases where particularly the mother, but it could be the father too, has some pretty intense trauma in her life and perhaps hasn't had as much therapeutic support as would be ideal. It can show itself as learning and behavioral challenges in the child. So how I know that, that's a longer story, but the very short version is when that's treated, the learning disability in the child improves, and that's how we've been able to see a correlation. So density, stress, homeopathic support, looking at the ways of creating more space, more imaginative play, less technology. What else may I be forgetting? I had a note. I also want to mention readiness. Not every child learns at the same rate. So if we are expecting the child to make certain benchmarks and they don't make it, one of the reasons may be that child's just not there yet. So if we push, it has the opposite effect of creating space and creates more tension in the child, which can actually have exactly the opposite effect of what you're looking at. So I hope this is broadening your perspective. I'd love to hear your stories. I had a child that didn't learn to read until the middle of grade 3, and for sure, had he been tested in grade 2, would have qualified for a variety of learning disabilities, many which were proposed to me. I had the gift of a teacher who really believed he just wasn't there yet, and she actually pressured me to not remediate him and to give him space, and it was very hard to do, and it was the best thing that could have happened. He's an avid reader, and he did not learn in the typical way that people progress and people learn, but he learned in the way that was right for him. So share your stories, and let's see if we can support each other through what can otherwise be a pretty stressful time for parents.